Hey everybody, Megan here. Welcome to my 2014 Reading in Review. This was a pretty good year for me reading-wise. I read a total of 121 books. Of those, 82 were novels, and of those, 20 were Nancy Drew books of the original series. Yeah, this was a pretty big Nancy Drew year for me, but that was way back in the beginning of the year before I even discovered BookTube. I had just discovered Goodreads and had started to put books on there, and only later than that did I start writing reviews. I also read a total of 19 nonfiction books. I read 14 graphic novels. This was the first year also that I ever read a graphic novel, and I read a total of 6 manga for the Wandering Sun series, which I am still intending to finish this year. And it was the first year I read manga too, so very exciting. With it being 2014, I have 14 categories to go through, so let's get started. The first category is Adult Contemporary, and for this I decided to go with Still Alice by Lisa Genova. This was an incredible book that I read for my university course, Literature and Aging. It is about a woman in her 50s, Alice, who is developing symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's, and the book just sort of goes through her progression of the disease, and it's told from her point of view, which is really different for a book of this nature, and I found it very compelling and engrossing. I read it, finished it sooner than I was supposed to. I just couldn't stop reading. Very great page turner. Definitely recommend it. Category number 2 is fantasy, and for this one I had to go with The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I absolutely love this book and cannot wait to read the Lord of the Rings series. Finally, I've seen the movies just countless number of times. This story follows the Hobbit Bilbo Baggins as he and 13 other dwarfs and the wizard Gandalf go back to their lost city to reclaim their gold from a dragon who took it from them. I found this book absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed this book, and I think you would too. The next category is action adventure, and for this I had to go with The Assassin's Duology by Cassandra Rose Clark, so The Assassin's Curse and The Pirate's Wish. This follows the story of Anana as she has run away from being in an arranged marriage to a fellow pirate, and as a result, the family that is scorned by her sends an assassin to kill her. And when he goes to kill her, he cannot, for whatever reason. You shall find out. And it was just so good. His name is Naji. They have to fulfill a series of quests together in order to not be unbound from each other anymore. And as a result, you can guess what happens. They fall in love, but it is not right away. It takes a while, and I love that about this series. I love the action adventure. That's not usually the genre I go for. I've never read any book with pirates and assassins, but I was pleasantly surprised by this and thrilled, and I just wanted more. It was just such a great world to be in. Next up is category number 4, which is nonfiction. For this one, I chose Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops by Jen Campbell. This is an absolutely wonderful read. You can read through it really, really quickly, and it was just probably the most entertaining book that I read this year, actually. Especially if you're a book lover, you get so many of the references in there. And even if you're not, some of the anecdotes were just hilarious. Others made me angry, and others just, I went, oh. And yeah, definitely really great book. I gave it for Christmas this year. I will probably give it again because I just want to share it with everybody. The next category is historical fiction, and for this I chose to go with Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This story takes place in the year 1950 in the French Quarter of New Orleans and follows the story of this girl Josie who wants to get out of the French Quarter, but she feels shadowed by her mother, who is a very famous prostitute. She just goes through so many struggles and tribulations, just one thing after another gets thrown at this poor girl, and you cannot help but watch it, and just, I could not stop reading this book. It was so good. Category number 6 was fluffy, and for this I chose Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins, because this is just like the gooeyest, cheesiest, fluffiest book that you can find in terms of its romance and sweetness. It follows the story of Anna as she goes to start her year at the American school in Paris, I think it's called, and she falls in love with this boy who is a bit of a womanizer, And the whole story is just about them getting together at the end. You know it's inevitable and bound to happen, but the journey is pretty good. And she's a really interesting character too. I loved her. I love being inside her head. It was a lot of fun to read. The next category is Best Summer Read, and I chose Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. This book is the definition of summer, I would say. It is the story of two best friends, Emily and Sloane. One day, Emily wakes up to find Sloane has just disappeared from her house, leaving behind only this sort of bucket list of things to do. Now, if you get the book and you turn it over, you see the bucket list, and it's pretty interesting, pretty intriguing. A bunch of seemingly impossible tasks that must be fulfilled by her. And she thinks that by doing this, she will eventually find Sloane, which, well, you will find out if you read. It was pretty thick, actually. It was a pretty sizable book, but I absolutely adore it, and it was definitely my favorite summer read, and as you can see by it being here. The next category is graphic novel, and for this one I had to go with This One Summer by Mariko Tamaki, with the illustrations and artwork done by Jillian Tamaki. This was such a beautiful story. It wasn't quite coming of age, but it was coming of age. About these two girls who go to the same beachy community every summer. And this particular summer is when they're in their tweens and they're just starting to go into womanhood. And they talk about the changes they're experiencing. You start to see things in the way the families are interacting and the way their parents interact with each other and the problems they have. Really, like, fairly adult content there. I can understand why it's in the young adult section for graphic novels as opposed to the kids. But that all being said, it was a wonderful story. I really enjoyed it. I would like to own it myself. The next category is Coming of Age, and for this I had to go with Ask the Passengers by A.S. King. This is the story of Astrid, a girl who is lesbian but does not want to be labeled as such. She just wants to live in a world where you are not defined at all by your sexuality, which I found to be very refreshing and intriguing, and I like the idea of no labels because, you know, why? Why define somebody just by who they love, who they want to be with? So it was pretty great. It was just to be inside her head and experience like all the flack she was getting, like all this like hounding of her, like, who are you, what do you want, like, in a person. So A.S. King, definitely, I must say right now also, A.S. King is my favorite new author of 2014. I've read 3 of her books so far. I'm in the middle of her newest one, Gloria O'Brien's History of the Future, and I'm in love with it. Just, you must read A.S. King. If you haven't already, go find some A.S. King and read her because she is fantastic. And for category number 10, I know I haven't been keeping track with the numbers, but here's number 10. It is the most romantic, and I must say that it is Just One Day by Gail Forman. This one I had to blow through in 2 days. I know my mark suffered back in the wintertime when I read her because I couldn't put it down. It is the story of Allison, who goes on a school trip to Paris, and I think it's on the last day or something like that. She meets this boy, Willem, and he is different and takes notice of her, and so they have one day together, and it's the most magical day. And then all of a sudden she wakes up and he disappears. Put it this way, that one day is about a third of the book. And the last 2/3 of the book are Allison finding herself and figuring out who she is, all the while preparing herself for trying to find Willem. And at the end she goes to find Willem. And it's just, it's gripping. It just keeps you on your toes. You just have to keep reading it to get to the end to find out what happens. And it was just beautiful. I love Gail Forman's writing. I cannot wait for her next book to come out in the new year. The next category is biography/memoir. And for this one, I had to go with As Always, Julia, The Letters of Julia Child and Avis Devoto, edited by Joan Reardon. This is a fantastic collection of the letters that go back and forth, like right from the beginning, between Julia Child and Avis Devoto, as they get to know each other and eventually collaborate in what will become Julia's career as a chef. Her writing Mastering the Art of French Cooking to the TV show, and it chronicles their lives as well. Just these really great letters that were so entertaining and fun to read and to learn about these women, and that the fact they discussed like social things like women's roles and the politics going on at the time and historical events just in their letters in passing just was great. I really enjoyed this. The next category is for series, and I started a fair number of series this year, but the only one that I actually completed was The Assassin's Duology by Cassandra Rose Clark, and I must say, this was my favorite. Just gripping. Again, I will say, you have to read them. The next one is middle grade, and for this, I would say The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate. I read quite a number of middle grade novels this year for the first time, like new ones, not just old favorites, and I had quite a good journey with that. So this story is about a gorilla named Ivan who has spent a great deal of his life in a cage in just a mall, you know, as a attraction, just a side attraction for people who are coming to the mall. Really sad in that aspect, and he does tricks, and he actually does art. A janitor's daughter gives him some crayons to draw with one time, and he just starts making beautiful artwork. His owner decides to sell them to make a profit. At the same time, this new little elephant, Ruby, arrives, and she becomes friends with Ivan. It's just a very, very cute story, but also just really deep in terms of like animals being in cages. It really makes you think, and I love that. I love this story. It was fantastic. And the final category is artwork. I am an artist, and so I like to look at my books as works of art in not only their pages and their structure, and narrative structure, but also their covers and their edges. Also, when there's illustrations, like with graphic novels, or just illustrations in general, like with chapter headers and stuff, I take notice of that. And for artwork this year, I have to say #1 pick is Will and Wit by Laura Lee Gullidge. This was the second graphic novel that I've ever read in my life. In terms of artwork, this was just amazing. I didn't think that people could could be so artsy in graphic novels as this lady. She uses lights as a motif throughout, and just every kind of light that you can imagine, like every light fixture imaginable, is included in this story. And so much so of the character of Wit is revealed through her shadows that are behind her. They let you know what she's actually feeling. If she's not saying anything, or if she's acting like she's fine, you can see in her shadow her true emotions and what she's feeling inside at the time. And that was just so illuminating and beautiful, and she has a style like none other illustrator that I have ever seen. And I've just fallen in love with her work this past year. So that is it for my top 14 books of 2014. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of my choices? I am going to be filming quite a bit in the next few days, what with my wrap-up and my Christmas book haul, which I'm going to do next. And yes, I'm also going to be doing my reading goals for 2015. I've picked them out. They're exciting. I am really, really stoked. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye, guys.